Welcome back to the Craftsman Online podcast. This is a weekly half-hour program focused on the relevant topics in Freemasonry and the various aspects of the craft. Any opinions, thoughts, or viewpoints shared during this program are that of the individual and do not reflect the official position of any Grand Lodge, appendant, or concordant body from which that member may hail. I'm your host, Brother Michael Arce, Editor-in-Chief of CraftsmanOnline.com. Welcoming in another Michael, Worshipful Brother Michael Rotert, who is the Worshipful Master of Denver Lodge number 5, and yes, Denver, Colorado. Welcome to the Craftsman Online podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, brother.
It's been one of the silver linings of the pandemic is being able to virtually attend some of your meetings and be a part of the discussions and the programming. And when I saw this announcement coming out that you were doing your Masonic Con, I was like, I have to get him on the podcast to talk about this, just because I'm a huge fan, and I know of a lot of other brothers and jurisdictions that are thinking of putting something like this together. You're calling yours the Masonica. It's the first ever for Denver number 5. So give us an idea of those of us that have maybe never even attended a con. What is it like pulling all of this together, an event like this together?
Well, there's a lot of moving parts to this. I think that there's a couple of goals with putting on an event like this. The first one being education. And the second one, probably most importantly, is just an opportunity for some brotherhood and fellowship. I personally know that being locked up in the house for the past year and a half it's made it hard. And I know a lot of brothers have felt disconnected from their lodge because either they just shut down and weren't doing anything, or they were having a tough time with the Zoom meetings and things like that, or getting attendance or people to speak at them. And so that's been challenging. But yeah, we're back now. Denver is doing really well, and we've been meeting in person pretty much since March. We've been doing degree work. We kind of went dark during the summer, but this is Masonica is going to be an opportunity for everybody to kind of get their Masonic mind back on before we come back from being dark over the summer. And it's just it's an opportunity to see brothers that you haven't seen in a while and start thinking about Masonic things again.
I like that this is a byproduct of what we're coming out of with the pandemic and kind of a return to normalcy. I love that. Was the idea of putting a con together something that you guys were thinking about maybe in 2018 or 19, or is this just a 2020 idea?
It's a fresh idea. Our Grand Lodge here in Colorado has put on something they call the Masonic Symposium. And they did it for, I've attended three or four of them, but they didn't have one last year for obvious reasons, and they're not doing one this year. And our current secretary, Worshipful Brother Robert Danko, called me one day and said, "Why don't we put something on? Why don't we do this? There's a demand for it. People want to get together and they want to talk about it." And that was kind of the birth of this whole thing. Then we started kind of hashing things out on the phone, and how it is when you get a group of Masons in a room, things get pretty big pretty fast. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it came to fruition.
I was going to say, it's almost like planning a second wedding, yeah. But most men don't get involved. We step out at a certain point and we bow out and let our partner, because this is what they have been planning for their special day. And we don't want to get in the way of that.
Exactly.
In upstate New York, we had one that was going to happen in 2020, which was the Cooperstown Masonicon, which is going to be held at the Baseball Hall of Fame, which obviously got canceled because of the pandemic. And it was a bummer because the brother that was promoting this, it started in 2019, and we were we'll make a day trip out of this. This will be great. For the rest of us, maybe we've gone to, our Grand Lodge session, and when I have to explain to coworkers or friends where I'm going, I'll say it's a Masonic convention. So, but definitely not in the sense of how you would plan this. So when you guys sat down, was there a format? Were there other cons that you had attended or other conventions outside of Freemasonry where you kind of drew hey, we're going to have an introduction or a keynote speaker and a breakout panel session?
In Colorado, anyways, and especially at Denver 5, we've had a huge uptick in interest in Masonry. Before the pandemic really started, I think at one point we had 16 prospects show up for dinner one night. And that's huge. That's huge. Usually it's 5, 6 or something like that. And so I think that a lot of guys are spending the pandemic sitting around their house or their apartment, thinking about bigger things in life and in the world and their place in it. And that's kind of what brought them in to the lodge. Because of that, we wanted to kind of concentrate some of the topics to some of these newer brothers. And so the idea was that we would have a couple of workshops, and workshops are educational, but it's not so much somebody just standing up there and giving a presentation. The first workshop that we're doing is just a Masonic etiquette workshop. I know that when I was first initiated, I didn't know all of this stuff. I didn't know that where I wasn't allowed to walk and how to address people. And when you don't know, it makes you not want to stand up in lodge and speak out. And so I think that that educating some of the newer Masons about just how this thing works will give them the confidence to get more involved in their lodges. I want the new EA standing up and addressing me when I'm in the East and bringing up an idea. I don't want anybody to not be involved because they're nervous about doing it. So we're having 2 workshops. The other workshop is about something that you and I have talked about before, and it's marketing your lodge. That's the number one thing that Denver 5 does better than most lodges I've ever seen is how we market ourselves. Worshipful Brother Pablo Colomban, he's our marketing genius.
You got to give what his technical work title is, though. He has the coolest.
He's the senior creative technologist of the lodge. Yeah.
It sounds like he's a chip maker.
He never gets. No one ever gives him a hard time about that. But he's responsible for our website, and it's always updated and beautiful and works. He is responsible for all of our social media stuff, and that's if you're wanting to attract younger people to your lodge. That's how you have to communicate with them the way that they communicate, and that is through social media and websites. And so he's going to teach other lodges the tricks. This isn't a Denver 5 thing. We want to see Masonry explode everywhere, and this is a good start. If you get online and you type in, Freemasonry, Denver, Colorado, you want your lodge to be one of these that pops up. And how do you go about that? And how do you interact with the person on the other end to show them something, show them what we do that will turn them on and make them want to come to visit a lodge.
What I find interesting, Michael, is when you talk to brothers that are engaged in Masonry these days and you say, what is it that you're looking for more of in the craft or in meetings? And everyone will say, oh, Masonic education. I want Masonic education. So lodges will have this rush, and they'll either have, hopefully brothers within the lodge that are willing to stand up and give a presentation or a lecture or just lead a discussion on anything that can relate to Freemasonry. And what I've experienced in those moments is after you're done with the presentation, you ask for questions and it's like cue the crickets.
Every time.
Or you'll go and you'll get a speaker like you have Brother Robert Johnson who's going to be coming and being a part of your event, and that will draw a crowd of brothers that will come, and boom, you'll have this instant influx of about 50 or 60 guys if you're lucky that night, from around your area that will come in to watch this. And what I find fascinating is that you have seen that there's this need, and you're going to have these 2 discussions, and one is super useful because whether you're a 50-year member or, like you said, a brand new EA that was just made maybe 3 weeks ago, there's a give and take that can go on between that, which is awesome. And then the second one, and I have talked about Denver Lodge number 5, shameless plug for a past episode of this podcast. And we talked about the importance of a digital presence, and I've been blown away since finding your lodge and being able to sign up for the emails and just following your trestle board and what's going on with your year. And the cool thing is not just preaching that you need to do this, but you're actually going to show brothers how to do this with a lot of the free tools that exist.
I'm hoping that I get to sit in on his talk and I'm not running around trying to make sure the Wi-Fi is working and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I to miss out on this, if you're involved with your lodge in any way, shape, or form, in the officer line, whatever, you're doing yourself a disservice. That this is like we've said, this is free. This is free. You can get people coming through the door of your lodge. You just got to let them know who you are, and this is the easiest, cheapest way to do it.
Absolutely. So you'll have 2 workshops, and then what other programs are on the event? Okay,
so then after the 2 workshops, we're going to have Worshipful Brother Bobby Juckham speak, and Bobby is well known in Colorado Masonry and around the country, and he's going to give a talk about guarding the West Gate. This is important to Masons right now. I think that when membership numbers get down and lodges kind of feel a little bit desperate to get members, the level of scrutiny that the new guys coming through go through gets lesser and lesser, and I think that it's a very important thing that we continue to do.
Oh yeah. One of the most interesting meetings that I attended in the DC area was a night that they were considering to ballot on the petition of a brother who was interested in affiliating with their lodge. And he listed as his lodge, his home lodge, the Grand Lodge of England, their online lodge, Infinity Lodge,
Oh yeah.
And one brother stood up and raised his hand and said, "Isn't that the Internet Lodge?" And I'm not kidding when I say an hour long to decide whether that qualified and met their standards. And eventually the decision was, well, let's kick this over to the Grand Lodge to investigate, to give us guidance on what we should do. But yeah, you're exactly right. It doesn't necessarily just mean a potential criminal background record, but also if this person is just a good fit for the character or the culture that we have in our lodge.
100%. Yeah. And lodge culture is something that, we could talk about for hours, and our lodge is interesting. We have people that kind of fall into all of the Masonic categories. And so, yeah, it'll be an interesting talk. And Bobby is, he's one of the best speakers I've ever personally witnessed. And so I'm looking forward to it just for that. And he's got a great mustache. So that helps. The second workshop that's going to be put on is being put on by Worshipful Brother Nick Freeberg. And his presentation is called The Memory Palace. And those of us who spend a lot of time memorizing stuff really appreciate this. I first saw this presentation given in about 2017, and Worshipful Brother Nick, he moved to Atlanta, but he's back now, and so he told me that he's updated this a little bit, and it's a great talk about how to break down memorization and different tricks and tips. And so this is this is the real hands-on stuff here that everybody can use. I don't care, if you're into esoteric masonry or, you're the guy that just likes to come to dinner and shake hands and stuff. We all memorize stuff. And anytime I can get a little trick or a tip on how to be better at it, I'm all ears. And so I'm really excited about that. Then the third presentation is going to be given by Worshipful Brother Robert Johnson. And he's going to be speaking on the legend of Adam's grave. And Worshipful Brother Robert Johnson didn't give me a whole lot of detail about this, but I've listened to enough of his presentations and talks. I know it's going to be very interesting. And one thing that's kind of cool about this is that during the pandemic, we installed a huge television in our lodge room. It's like this 80-inch gigantic TV. And the idea was that we could use that television to do presentations and things like that. We've struggled in the past with using projectors and things like that. And somebody's always got to set something up, and then they don't have the cable that goes to and so we're eliminating all of that. And then our temple association said, well, why don't we put another TV in there so that the people in the north can see? So now we have 2 80-inch televisions in our lodge room, and no matter where you're sitting, you can see. And so this is going to be a first for us. And it's probably the thing I'm the most nervous about is we're beaming in Worshipful Brother Johnson to give his talk via Zoom, and so all the brothers will be sitting in the lodge room watching him on TV, and it's going to be kind of surreal. But I think that it's something that we need to get used to doing. I love the idea of him being able to give his presentation in his underwear, sitting in his living room, and not having to fly out here and do all of that. So it's going to be interesting. Hopefully it goes off without a hitch.
There are good things that we can take in Masonry from the shutdown that happened in 2020, and this would be one of them. It's to find ways to still connect outside of the lodge, but yet being able to have them in a lodge meeting. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
2 80-inch screens. It's like the Cowboy Stadium in there.
Oh yeah. We're talking about having movie nights over there, and but the Temple Association won't let us have popcorn in there, but we might have to sneak some in anyways. But it's taking everything to a whole new level.
The cool thing is you guys did build a meal into this, so you'll break for dinner. And then after dinner is the thing like, man, I wish I could come to this. And I know we can't talk a lot about it. I'm sure for those of us that are Master Masons, because this event is only for Master Masons, the name of the program, it's a 1-act play called In Defense of the Ruffians. What can you tell us about that without giving too much away for anybody?
Back in 2017, during Worshipful Brother Pablo's year in the East, he had this idea to create the Denver 5 Thespian Troupe or Club. And, some of us kind of laughed at it and whatever. He found this play, and the play, it's something that could have taken place after the third degree. And so it's 2 people, and it's one brother and he's incarcerated, and the other actor is kind of his conscience. And so it's this kind of back and forth thing. And the 2 brothers that were the part of the thespian group, they absolutely blew us away. They were both, they're both guys that were great at giving lectures and doing degree work. And I had never seen these guys, and I know them well. I've never seen them like this. And they're amazing actors. And they actually, one of them actually moved to Nashville and is flying in just to put on the performance, which is awesome. If you're a Master Mason, it's not to be missed. After we did this, I was determined that we were going to find more plays for these brothers to put on. And I ordered like 20 some plays from a lodge, I think it was in Maryland. And they came in, and some of them were all right, but none of them were quite at the level that this one was at. And it's pretty hard to find something to compete with this. And so we're kind of going back to the well on this and doing it again. I think these guys, this will probably be the 3rd or 4th time that they've put it on in the last 5 years, and it's awesome. It's awesome. Brothers that really dislike plays and things like that, they're the first ones to stand up and say that was amazing.
What you've talked about, this is it's got a full day agenda on it, which I love. It is coming up on Saturday, August 28th. So when this episode is available for download on the week of August 22nd, we can say safely it's coming up this weekend. I'm sure for you it feels like this weekend is every weekend, like right around the corner. The performance is restricted to Master Masons, but the rest of the conversations for the day, is that open for everybody?
That's open to all Masons, yeah. And every Denver 5 event pretty much has to have food and tied into it in some way, shape, or form. And so, that's it's a good opportunity to get caught up with guys you haven't seen over the summer or even longer than that. And dinners, no one ever complains about dinner.
Before we wrap things up here, I wanted to get kind of, for brothers, I know the Masonic Con movement is very popular now. There's a lot of energy for this, for a lot of the reasons that you stated. We're getting back together. It's a great way to kind of share what we know. It's an event that attracts people that might not have ever heard of our lodge to come and visit us. There's now a possibility that we can broadcast this and, push it on the internet or make videos out of it. It's all great. What are some of the, if you had to pick three, what would be the top three takeaways that you have that people planning an event like this should know?
I would say start early. Most lodges have lots of resources. If you start talking to brothers, you will quickly find, someone knows somebody. I was worried about dinner, and I was talking on the phone to worshipful brother Robert Danko, and I said, I'm worried about dinner. And he says, well, what are you worried about? And I said, well, I don't know what to do. And he said, let me make a couple phone calls. He called a guy who he knew. He texted me 10 minutes later, dinner's taken care of. Use your resources that you have. I think that most jurisdictions have, that there's a handful of guys who do the speaking circuit, and they give presentations, several times a month and things like that. Talk to them, reach out to them and say, I saw you give a presentation on, XYZ. Are you working on anything new right now? And, if you are, I would really like it if you could give that presentation at my event, and it lights a little fire under their butt to get them to say, oh, these guys want me to do it. I think that we're in a fortunate situation where we're not having to charge for the event. That we have done events in the past where we brought in the Germania Lodge from Louisiana, and they did their red degree and things like that, and we had to charge for it. And that was a big headache. Just the collecting of the money and, who paid this, and, that makes it tough. I think that the last thing is just think about what kind of an event you want to have. I'm really wanting this to be a fun event. I really, really like the timing of it. It's August 28th. So kids are back in school in Colorado anyway. So people aren't on summer vacation anymore. And there's kind of this little window there between school starting and, summer's ending and lodge opening. And we're filling that space right there. And I hope that every brother that shows up has a good time and starts thinking about lodge and Masonic things again. And shows up at their first meeting in September, charged up and ready to really contribute to their lodge, or, bring some ideas that they came up with and see this thing grow. It's not just a Denver 5 event. We want to see Masonry grow everywhere.
This is like the ultimate brother bring a friend night, if you really think about it. And, for masters that are listening to this, or, brothers that are making their way to the East, and you're like, this is something I would like to do, I would say, consider it now, start planning for it now as you're building your trestle board for your year. Absolutely.
And this kind of came together just because it was like, geez, we need to do something. Lately, our meetings have been, degree work, proficiency work. And then, I had lots of plans for my year, and they weren't just doing degree work and proficiency work, but that's what the lodge needs right now. And so that's what we've been doing. And so this is kind of an event to have fun and hopefully learn something.
Brother Michael, I'm super excited about this event. I hope those that are listening that are near the Denver area that can make the trip can do so and do so safely. And I know they're going to have a full day, and they're going to get that enlightenment that they look forward to. I'm hoping, no pressure for next year, that there is that online component for those of us that might not be able to make the trip. But it sounds like, hey, you got Wi-Fi in the building, so it can be done now. We just weren't sure if we were going to quite make it. So I'm strongly encouraging the brothers behind me in line to take the torch with this and make it something that we continue to do. And I'm interested in following up with you in a couple months to find out what the event was like, but then that after effect. Absolutely. Yeah. I'd love to do it. Love to do that. Well, good luck. I'm sure you feel like you're planning a second wedding. So. Oh yeah. It kind of feels that way, but my wife isn't yelling at me as much as the wedding, so that it's a little easier. This has been the Craftsman Online Podcast. I want to thank my guest this week again for joining us, Worshipful Brother Michael Rotert, the Worshipful Master of Denver Lodge Number 5 in Denver, Colorado. If Masonic education is important to you, you can sign up for our email newsletter at craftsmanonline.com. A reminder that new episodes of our Craftsman Online podcast are available every Monday morning. Until next time, let peace and harmony prevail.